Welcome to the Reddit Chronicles. Today we will be reading from TrueOffMyChest. Our first post is by Throwaway. My husband confessed to me yesterday that he is in love with my sister in a drunken state. I don't know if I should take it seriously or it's just a drunk thing. Yesterday, we had dinner with my sister and her husband, and we all had a lot to drink. After my sister and her husband left, my husband and I had sex. Neither of us were tired, so we continued drinking a bit of wine, listening to music in the background, and everything was amazing, I thought. My husband was smiling and in a good mood. He is always like that when he is drunk. We talked about my sister and her husband. He just suddenly said, "I'm so in love with sister's name." I said, "What?" He said, "I'm so desperately in love with sister's name. What I would do to taste her lips. She is brilliant." He looked dreamy and was still smiling. I said, "How drunk are you?" He said, "Probably plenty." I was drunk too, but still it hit me like a ton of bricks. I just sat silent there, and he too was in his own world with a smile etched on his face. He looked like he was a million miles away. I went to bed. This morning all memories came rushing, and now I'm not drunk. It hit me even more what he said. I'm horrified, and my heart is in pieces. He hasn't mentioned anything and is acting normal, if not a little hungover. I don't know what to do now. He has always had a good relationship with my sister with mutual respect. Should I ignore his drunken comments? Was that just him being drunk? Should I wait for him to start talking? Not sure he even remembers. Our next post is by Long Dress. I know that my husband is cheating on me. I need to tell someone. I, F40, found that out about 6 months ago. I went into a total shock. I thought he, M39, loved me because he tells me that every day. We have a beautiful family together. 3 beautiful children, 5, 4, and 16 months. Beautiful home, vacation home. We are close to both our families, and everything else is perfect. She, F35, is a co-worker of my husband that I know very well. She has been in my home. I have comforted her when her husband cheated on her and left her for his new woman. I saw her pain. Little did I know that she would inflict that same pain on me a few months later. I saw her nudes on his phone. Talk about their hookups on Messenger. She isn't even beautiful. She is disgusting, pathetic, and miserable. I know I'm being a disgusting misandrist here, but I can't help myself. What does she have that I don't? He disgusts me very much. He is pathetic and stupid. My respect for him is gone. I have chosen to pretend that I don't know. I love my life, and I'll be damned if I share my children and not be able to see them every day of their lives. Not him nor her deserve me separating from my babies, my home, my family, my comfortable life, and my safety. Our next post is by Perfect Sherbert. My brother will never move out of my parents' house, and I seem to be the only one who sees why. I just have to vent this somewhere. I don't really have anyone to talk to about it who would understand, and I literally don't have time for therapy. I'm 31F, have a brother 28M, who lives in my parents' basement and will never leave. He hasn't had a steady job in years. He can't get a girl to date him, and of course he blames feminism for this. My mom, who literally cleans up after him, like homeboy can't even be bothered to bring his dirty dishes to the kitchen. My mom goes to his room and gets them for him, pays him to help her around the house. Both of my parents make endless excuses for him, and I really don't know why, because all he does is whine and complain and generally act like a jerk to them. My parents claim that they raised my brother and I exactly the same. They claim to have been blindsided by my brother's basement-dwelling fate. But I called this exact scenario over 20 years ago. Growing up, my brother would get rewarded for doing the most simple tasks. My mother was never short of praise for anything my brother did. I remember he would get allowance money every weekend for doing hardly any chores. I, on the other hand, couldn't hardly have a weekend to myself without my mother scolding me for not doing something, not doing it well enough, not doing it long enough, etc. If it wasn't house chores, it was extracurricular activities, which I was doing to the point of exhaustion. No matter how much I did, it seemed like it just wasn't enough. The thing is, I really wasn't a bad kid in general. I never had any disciplinary issues in school. But as soon as I came home, you would have thought I was Satan himself from the amount of restrictions put on me. My mom was constantly going through my things. She never did this with my brother. So on top of never having time for myself to just goof off and be a kid, I never had privacy. I started hiding my diary in a hole in the dry wall of my closet because my mom openly admitted to reading it. I became highly introverted and guarded, and I barely made any friends in school. My brother, it seemed, was given free rein to do whatever he wanted, with no consequence. In hindsight, I think my parents were being sexist in how they raised us, but at the time, I just thought my parents, especially my mom since she was our primary caregiver, were plain dumb to be always giving so much praise to my brother when he did so little to earn any of it. I really started to resent both my parents and my brother in middle school, and I was pretty open about my frustrations. Of course, they blamed hormones and teen angst, but at 31 those feelings haven't gone away. I've just gotten better at disguising them for the sake of protecting my parents' feelings. I started devising a plan to move out pretty quickly, even trying to run away a few times. There was a point where my parents were deflating my bike tires every weekend and hiding the pump. I managed to get out pretty much the minute I turned 18 and moved into my own apartment several states away. Because of the way I was raised, I can't stand having anyone control me or my life, and I'm very sensitive about who is in my space and for how long. In addition to living alone most of my adult life, I've always been self-employed since moving out of my parents' house. So I had to hustle really hard to maintain this lifestyle, and yeah, that meant doing some morally questionable activities, but I don't regret it because I never had to move back in with my parents, and I've always been in control of myself. The only time I wasn't was when I was married to my abusive ex, and what really sealed the deal in leaving that guy was how much he reminded me of living with my parents. Nowadays, I am working as a full-time freelance artist, and I actually get really high-end gigs and make pretty decent money. My parents have a bizarre relationship with my success. They seem to want to take credit for it in some ways, which I guess they should, because it was how much I hated being around them, hated having someone telling me what to do, that motivated me to choose this career path and get good at it. On the other hand, though, they can't talk about any of my accomplishments with the rest of my family because it makes my brother wildly jealous. My brother, who I should mention does have time for therapy and supposedly goes, blames his inability to get out of the house on me. In my resentment of him while we were growing up, he says I traumatized him. My parents tell me that it's his trauma that I caused that has him unable to function in the world and move out of the house. Since I am apparently the source of this trauma, anytime I'm at my parents' house, my brother makes a point to avoid me. The last time I was there while I was hanging out with my mom, her phone was going off every second with a text from my brother complaining that I was there visiting. Everything I did while visiting my parents had to be carefully choreographed around my brother, and he still wouldn't stop complaining. I'm basically a second-class citizen in my parents' house every time I visit because his needs must always come first. At this point, I don't even know what to tell my parents. It's obvious to everyone around them that they're enabling my brother to be a perpetual child, but my mom has a never-ending list of excuses for why she can't kick him out and how he's just about to get into the field he's always wanted to be in. He just needs a little more time to get on his feet, blah blah blah. And of course it's all my fault because I was the difficult child, my mother's words, and he wasn't. I feel like I've been sabotaged out of ever really having a loving and supportive family because they're too busy coddling my brother. Anyways, thanks for reading my rant. I feel better now. And parents, let this be a lesson to you. I don't know what that lesson is, but it's definitely a lesson. Thank you for listening to the Reddit Chronicles. Follow for more content.